If you have studied any Chinese history, you most likely know about the story of Chiang Kai-Shek and how he led the nationalists during the Chinese Civil War and during World War II. You most likely also know that the Chinese nationalists led by him would lose the Chinese Civil War and flee to the island of Formosa, which is now Taiwan. However, you most likely don't know about the plan to assassinate Shek in World War II during 1943. Now, I already know what you're thinking. Surely this had to be an Imperial Japanese plan to assassinate Shek so that Chinese leadership would be destabilized and the Japanese would have a better chance in China. However, unfortunately, that is not the case. You see, betrayal never comes from the enemy, it comes from those you trust. And although Chiang Kai-shek clashed with Western military leaders during World War II, he most likely would have at least had some amount of trust for the Americans. However, American military leadership saw Shek as getting in the way of stopping the Japanese. And that is why one American military general even had his even had Roosevelt's chief of staff, General Frank Dorn, get and make a plan to try to get rid of Shek. Roosevelt even said, "If you can't get along with Chang and you can't replace him, get rid of him once and for all. You know what I mean. Put in someone you can manage." Sitwell, Joseph Sitwell, the American general, told Frank Dorn to cook up a workable stream and await orders. And boy, Dorn did just that. He devised a plan that would make movie theaters that would put movie theaters to shame. You see, the plan was to fly Chiang Kai-shek to India and try to train the Chinese Nationalist Army and make them better fighters. However, Chiang Kai-shek most likely would have never gotten there if he had taken that flight, because they planned to fake an engine trouble. Basically, the plan was this. They'd fly him, and most likely, when they were half of the way there, they'd fake the engine trouble, and possibly they'd say the engine is malfunctioning, or there was something urgent wrong with the engine. Then they'd give them parachutes, and they'd parachute out of the plane. The only problem with that is that if this plan had gone through, the parachutes that they would have given them were faulty, and Chiang Kai-shek would have fallen to his death along with his wife, which would most likely be with him, and any other Chinese nationalist soldiers. Now, I know what you're wondering. How did this plan not go through? Well, for a couple of reasons. One is that American General Joseph Sitwell in 1944 would later change his mind on assassinating Shek. And two, other American generals might have not wanted to go through this plan, and other leadership in the military might have objected to this. Again, reason number two is more of a theory of what might have happened, because American military leadership might have just went along with this, as well as Joseph Sitwell. There's a good chance that they might have went along with it as well, because even the president at the time, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, As I said earlier, if you can't get along with him or manage him, get rid of him and replace him with someone you can manage. And Franklin Delano Roosevelt is not a hero that people remember him as, from confiscating people's gold, never retaining it, killing people's livestock, and giving them bonds that would quickly lose their value in comparison to their gold. However, I'm not here to talk about FDR. I'll most likely make a separate video about him and his tyranny. So, if this plan would have gone through, Asia would most likely be a vastly different place, and the world might be a vastly different place than it was today, especially if somehow Chinese nationalist leaders learned that America had something to do with Chiang Kai-shek's death. It's impossible to predict the results of what might have happened, but most likely Chinese-American relations, if the nationalists had won the Civil War somehow without Chiang Kai-shek, would have never really been repaired, even to this day in 2021. The willingness also to assassinate a foreign leader also opens up the doors to asking more questions about assassinations of US leaders, such as the JFK assassination. You have to wonder if the military leaders at the time of 1943 were willing and had the capability to assassinate Chiang Kai-shek, what would stop them from possibly doing the same thing in 1963 and assassinating JFK? Now, I'm not saying they did assassinate JFK, however, JFK, like Chiang Kai-shek, pissed off the high ranks in the military, from JFK's handling of the Bay of Pigs invasion and his also sorry, I gotta clear my throat. And JFK also did not. There's a good chance. What I'm trying to say is there's a good chance JFK didn't get along with the members of the high-ranking military establishment. There was a lot of Roy Hawks in JFK's military leadership, and some of them went as far as suggesting an invasion of Cuba, which JFK would not do. This could have pissed off the military establishment, and we cannot forget that Dwight D. Eisenhower warned of the military-industrial complex before he left office. So, another thing would to, I mean, another thing that is interesting to think about is that the FBI never noticed the Secret Service about the threat to President Kennedy, and the FBI never investigated the possible assassination threat at Dallas. But even if the military or high higher higher members of government had nothing to do with JFK's assassination, it still doesn't resolve the fact that at the time of World War II, military leaders and people who had high rank, high had had authority in government were willing to assassinate Chiang Kai-Shek, who was an, the leader of a country that was the ally of America in a war against the Japanese. Just think about that and have that in your mind for at least a little while. And that will be the end of this video. Stay safe, stay secure, and if you can, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share this video if you can. That's all I have for everyone for now. Goodbye.